Let me see if there's any questions here. I have not looked at these at all. So I can't even vouch for whether or not there's any here that are any good. And I can't even remember what the GIF was. I'll put the GIF there so when I scroll through, I can find it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I think I missed it. Where is it? I can't find it. I thought I did it. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm off the hook. Oh, here it is. Damn it. Only 26. Let's see what's here. Will the new Hurricane Dave, will the new Ravens purple helmet make your collection? You know, some teams will send them to me, just the small one. I don't need the full size. The Falcons sent the small one last year. They probably won't be sending any updated helmets anytime soon from Atlanta, but the Ravens have no reason to, to be upset. So Ravens, you know how to find me. I'd love to have a purple helmet to put down in the barn. I will take a picture of it and put it on social media so you at least get your $29.99 worth if you do it. Another one from Hurricane Dave. What kind of breed would you get if you decided to get a second dog? Probably like a Labradoodle or a Golden Doodle or something like that. The problem is our current dog, we believe, would not accept another dog. And I don't want to get into that type of situation where the dogs have to be kept apart, where one's the upstairs dog and the other is the downstairs dog. That's just not going to be good for anybody, even though I would love to have a second dog. Macy is basically my wife's dog, and my hope would be that the second dog would be my dog. The reality is the second dog would probably lock on to my wife the same way Macy did. Mark Queen says, Dak contract, exclamation point. Yeah, that's news to me. I haven't seen any news that Dak's getting a deal done. I don't expect it to get done. I think that Jerry Jones is going to be stubborn, and I think Dak Prescott's going to be stubborn, and I think that Dak is going to play out this season, and then after the year, they'll either work out a deal before his current contract voids or he'll go see what's on the market. And from the Cowboys' perspective, I've said this before, I believe, they should want him to be tampered with. They should authorize him to talk to other teams before his contract voids, because once his contract voids, I think they're stuck with a $54 million salary cap as a starting point, cap hit as a starting point for 2025, because that's what's left on his last deal. And the only way you can move that money around and kick that can is if you extend the deal before that contract voids. So basically, I would want to know if Dak's leaving before that contract voids. And if he's staying, I want to redo the contract in a way that can get that cap number under control, if there's even a way to feasibly do it. That's a problem with the franchise quarterback contract. You get low cap numbers early, but those dollars hit at some point. And at some point, every team that's had a franchise quarterback leave has had to take that punishment. Kirk Cousins, $28 million in Minnesota this year. Matt Ryan, the big cap number he left behind when they traded him. Drew Brees had a big cap number when he left the Saints. And Tom Brady, $35 million last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. $35 million under the cap charged to a guy who wasn't there. That leads to the next question, retired referee. Does anyone actually want to watch Tom Brady call a football game? Well, somebody at Fox does, because they're paying him $37.5 million per year. This gets back to the age-old question of, does it really matter who's calling the games? Now, the argument would be, if you truly have a booth that exudes gravitas and high-level competence, and whatever game you put them on is necessarily a big game. I remember that vibe when I was a kid and there was no Sunday night game. It was two windows on Sunday and Monday night, with some minimal exceptions. Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire. That was a big game. That was a game to watch if they were doing it. That was the game of the week as far as the NFL was concerned, if it was Summerall and Brookshire. I don't know that that applies anymore. I don't know that that message is sent anymore, because the voices are identified with windows, not, oh, this must be a huge game because this person's calling it. And with Brady, my concern is, if I was Fox, I'd look at this and say, are we kind of setting this guy up to fail? Because the best he can do is meet ridiculously high expectations. Anything less than that is going to be regarded as a partial failure. And I don't know how well he's going to do. I don't think he knows. I don't think he knows which tone he's going to take. You don't want to be get off my lawn. We did it differently. We, I, me. That's the Joe Montana thing that caused him to be a disaster, frankly. Love Joe Montana as a player. Disaster as a broadcaster. Bill Walsh, one of the great coaches of all time. I, me, we. People don't want to hear that. And people don't want that sense of get off my lawn. Old man yells at cloud. These guys all stink. I'm better than them. So how do you strike the balance between real criticism, real scrutiny, but coming off as bitter old man who doesn't play anymore and wants to talk about the glory days that have passed him by? I don't know. Good luck. You look at what happens to Tony Romo on social media. Good luck to Tom Brady. And the other thing too, he got booed when he was introduced to hand out the UFL Championship MVP award in St. Louis, because there's fans in St. Louis that at some level, right or wrong, still believe that something untoward happened in Super Bowl 36. There's going to be places Tom Brady goes. I mean, I was hoping that 49ers-Bills game was going to end up on Fox, because they're going to be lobbing some things up into the booth whenever Tom Brady calls a game in Buffalo. Maybe he never will. Maybe they'll be smart enough to keep him out of Buffalo indefinitely. But there's going to be places he goes where they just don't like him. He goes to Baltimore. They don't like him. He's identified with kicking the asses of a lot of teams. And he's going to be still regarded as partially a villain. So, the best thing he can do is forget that he ever played and become a new identity, a new personality as a broadcaster, to the point where eventually the hope is the audience doesn't even realize this guy ever played. Now, good luck with Tom Brady getting to that point. But like John Madden, like by the time John Madden was John Madden, most people weren't aware that he had even coached. And there have been certain players over the years that have become studio analysts, booth analysts, where they do it for so long and it's so seamless and it works so well. You get to the point where there's enough of the audience that has picked up the game that the player was playing before that chunk of the audience was even watching football. So they think of him not as a player. They think of him as a broadcaster. That's going to be the challenge for Tom Brady. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. Let's see what else we have here. This is Valleyman 12. Do you think the NFL would ever spin off NFL Network to avoid any conflicts of interest for the media operation? That's funny. That's a good one. No. I mean, at best, we're going to have ESPN, and that deal's been in the works forever. It was supposed to be announced in May. I think part of the problem is it's impossible to land the plane because the NFL is always saying, please, sir, may I have some more? And they're always scratching for a little extra. But that conflict is always there. I've said for years, just like SiriusXM NFL Radio, the NFL is licensed to Sirius. You should just license the name NFL Network to an independent operation. I just don't know how much money it can make. I think for the NFL, the best play, frankly, is shut it down altogether and sell the rights that the NFL retains to that handful of games to the highest bidder. I think they'll make more money by selling that package, the early Sunday morning European package and whatever other specialty games the NFL retains for NFL Network. There's a certain number that NFL Network has to have to be on the cable dial or YouTube TV or whatever it is to get the subscription fee they get. I suspect they'd make more money. And it looks like they're finally running it as a business, not as some vanity play, and we're going to shape the message with our own in-house reporters and shows, and if it costs us too much money, so be it. They want to make money off of this thing. The way to make money would be shut it down and sell the rights to the games to whoever, Netflix, YouTube, Amazon, whoever. Sam Eichenlaub. I need to get this wrapped up soon, but he wants to know, what is my bourbon of choice when I'm watching a game in the barn and or reviewing 400-page depositions? I've lost my taste for bourbon, and that's a real problem for me because I have like 100 bottles of it between the house bar and the barn bar, and I just don't drink it anymore. I drink Di Serono and Sprite Zero on ice. My wife got me. she's gotten me some great gifts in recent years that have made their way to the barn. There's that great Vikings 3D logo with LED lighting behind it that is just awesome. Handmade. Guy in North Carolina made it, and it looks great down there. If you've seen videos of the barn or pictures of the barn, you've seen it. This year, Christmas, she got me an ice maker for the barn. And my first reaction was like, I just take ice down from the house. Then we got the thing hooked up, and it is awesome. It gives you like that restaurant quality, little tiny ice pellets. And I've got a thing on my phone. Like if I'm going down to the barn in an hour, I pull up the app, I hit the button, and through the miracle of modern technology, there's a bucket full of ice, freshly made when I go down there. It is awesome, but no bourbon, Di Serono and Sprite Zero. That's my current concoction. At some point, I'm sure my taste will change. Summertime, I'll have a little tequila sitting out on the patio on a hot day, but I don't know how long it's been. It's been like 4 or 5 months now. I just haven't had a taste for bourbon. So that's that. Manuel Villa. Are we sometimes too hard on NFL owners? It seems as though there are a number of things that can go wrong, even with competent ownership, or is it just as easy as hiring good football people and not throwing drinks at fans? I think that we're not hard enough on owners because owners have no real accountability. You can't fire an owner. Jed York said that several years ago. The only way to make them accountable is to shame them, is to make them hear your voice, is to make them understand they're doing something they shouldn't do, or run them off if they're that bad. But how often is that going to happen? The planets had to line up just right, and it still took years before Washington fans got what they wanted with the kind of forced sale of the Commanders by Daniel Snyder. So, if you're a fan of a team and there's a bad owner, you're stuck until that person sells or dies. And there's no guarantee that the next owner is going to be any better. The thing that drives me crazy, but that also makes this sport so fascinating to me, multi-billion-dollar football operations owned and operated by family food trucks. And the dysfunction starts there and trickles down to the football operation. And I just love that part of it. But if you're a fan of a team that doesn't have good ownership, look no farther than that to explain why that team is always struggling to end up being competitive. Let me try that again. Nuevo huevo. Does that mean new egg? I think that means new egg. If the current Sunday ticket lawsuit results in lower prices, do you think there could be some unforeseen consequences? Do you think it's possible it would affect TV viewership enough that we'd see viewership shift to streaming in the long run? No, I think that if the NFL loses this and acts accordingly, what will happen is, and by act accordingly, I mean make changes to the business model to prevent future antitrust class actions making the same argument. I think what happens is more people get Sunday ticket. Sunday ticket is cheaper. There's greater flexibility to get single team, single week, single game, the way it should be. And at the end of the day, the NFL is still going to make its money. I think Sunday ticket becomes more valuable to whoever ends up purchasing the rights. And if CBS and Fox end up saying, well, we're not going to pay you the premium that you want for this package because you've undermined it with Sunday ticket, fine. We'll just charge more for Sunday ticket. We'll still have the CBS and Fox package, and there's great value in that marquee late afternoon game that alternates weekends, except for the 1 week when both networks, have a 4:25 p.m. Eastern game in addition to the final weekend of the regular season. Typically, it's one of them solely in that 4:25 window, which gets like 30 million viewers. So there's still great value in CBS or Fox packages. I think the NFL will find a way to make more money in the long run. I just think that the end result, and I haven't gotten any pushback yet from 345 Park Avenue, either directly or via NBC, which I think tells me I'm right about this. We all should be rooting for the NFL to lose because we're all better off as fans and consumers of the NFL product if they are forced to charge a lower price for Sunday ticket. And if we have true choice. They're saying on the witness stand at this trial that they're all about giving consumers choices, and that's just nonsense. They're not. You only get the choice if you're willing to pay the premium to get it. If you want to have true freedom of choice, any fan can buy at a reasonable price the ability to watch any game that fan wants to watch at any time. And there's no reason not to do that now in this world of streaming. It should be available. I want to watch Eagles Cowboys, even though I live in San Francisco and they're trying to give me 49ers Chargers. I can do it. And it's easy and it's cheap. And I think there's a way for the NFL to make a ton of money that way. I just think the NFL gets so set in its ways and it's fearful of change. It doesn't realize at the end of the day, they're still going to be making far more money than anyone ever expected the NFL would. Manuel Villa, I keep saying I need to wrap this up. I'm just going to take a couple more here. There's some good questions today, though. As a fan of Playmakers, I'm curious to know when we can expect Playmakers 2 to come out. Any topics you could tease with us that the first book might not have included? Well, Playmakers 1 was a result of 20 years of news and developments and trends in the NFL. So we're only 2 years into the life cycle that would lead to Playmakers 2. So I don't know if there's ever going to be a Playmakers 2. I will tell you this, though. Peel back the curtain. I met with my agent. I have an agent only for my writing endeavors because I've learned that in that industry, you can't get your foot in the door with a publishing house unless you have an agent. The agents basically act as the first wave of frog kissers in search of the princes that can be handed over to the editors who then buy the books or don't buy the books. But I had an agent for Playmakers, the original version. I have a different agent now because this agent specializes more in fiction, and that's been my focal point in recent years. But I was talking to him in May, and I was telling him the story of how Playmakers came to be. And actually what happened was, let me remember this correctly. So many people were saying this whole PFT thing that you've created and you've maintained, and it all starts in West Virginia, and you were a lawyer before. That's a hell of a story. You should write a book about how it all came to be. So I kept hearing that, and I kept hearing that. And I finally like, I don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. I don't have the patience to do it. I like to write short little blurbs and move on to the next one, short little blurb, move on to the next one. Finally, I said, screw it. Let's do this. Let's try to do this. So I made the pitch to my prior agent, and he said, nobody cares about that, but there could be a way to come up with something that would work as a nonfiction offering that a publishing house would buy and put in bookstores coast to coast. And that is what ultimately resulted in Playmakers. So I've been walking around for the last 5 years thinking nobody cares about the story of PFT and everything that led to it and how I first discovered the NFL and things that, you know, when I sit around and think about it, it's like, I don't really care. Why would anybody else care? But I was telling my agent about that last month in New York, and he said, you know, that could be good. So I actually spent time the past few weeks putting together a proposal, because what you do with a nonfiction effort, you write the proposal and the publishing house buys the proposal and then you write the book. With fiction, you got to write the book and then hope somebody thinks that it isn't a piece of crap and decides to publish it and sell it if you decide to go that route. So, long story bearable, there might be something coming at some point on how this whole thing came to be, although I'm still not sure that anyone would give a shit. But there might be something you could look at and say, I see that book, I don't give a shit, I'm not going to buy it. All right, one more, because it's important. Oyale Espresso. I have a feeling that's something dirty. I always worry when I read these Twitter handles, it's something absolutely filthy. Are you going to bid on your dad's old bar building? And people keep asking me about that. You know, the building in my hometown of Wheeling, West Virginia, and the bar that my dad had is kind of loosely the basis of one of the main locations, A Father of Mine, available at Amazon for $3.99 for the ebook, $14.99 for the paperback. So that building, it's been around over 100 years. And the building's for sale. Well, the last time it's sold, it's over $3,000, because if you own it, you got to keep it from being condemned, because it's an old hotel that hasn't had occupancy for like 40 years. My dad's bar was in the ground floor, and more recently it was like a gyros restaurant. So I like the idea of doing it, I love the idea of dumping a bunch of money into it because I'm sure it would be a tax write-off at some point or a tax shelter or something, and I could refurbish it and turn it into a bar again and not have illegal gambling in the back, but or in the front, as the case may be. But I'm probably not going to do it. I got too much going on, and I already have a viable business that has a model that has been profitable in recent years. There's no point at this time to say, let's roll the dice and let's spend a shitload of money on something that may end up being a gigantic money pit, even though it would have significant sentimental value. Let's wrap it up there. If I didn't get to one of your questions today, because it looks like there's some good ones I'm going to end up skipping over, just keep asking them and I'll see them, because I'm going to be doing this most weekdays, maybe every weekday between now and the return of PFT Live after the Summer Olympics, or just the Olympics. I think it's the Winter Olympics and the Olympics, not the Summer Olympics. I'm committing some sort of breach of Olympics etiquette by calling it the Summer Olympics. But regardless, we'll be back after the Summer Olympics. Stay tuned for another edition of PFT PM, most likely tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. It's going to get dicey in the coming week or so. I'll do it as often as I can. I got some other things I got to take care of. But if I'm here, I will do it. And hopefully you will watch it. And hopefully you'll check us out around the clock at profootballtalk.com. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. And we'll talk to you again on Wednesday. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.